Hello and welcome to Who Is Best, a show where I, Claudine, take games that give you choices and rate those choices in a tier list. And today I am finally getting to one of my most requested Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy VIII. To be honest, I have avoided this one for a very long time. It's a beloved entry and frankly, Final Fantasy VIII fans scare me. Now, in case some of you out there might think I'm being biased, I have no skin in this game. I've 100% completed Final Fantasy VIII and will probably never play it again because I didn't really enjoy it. That isn't a jab at anyone who loves this game, but more to ensure that tier placement is made completely off of research and experience. No favorites here. I've decided that since summons play a bigger role in this game than most others, the junctioning system being one of the more broken aspects of Final Fantasy VIII, I've decided to add them into this list as well. Now, Final Fantasy VIII is probably the second most breakable Final Fantasy in the series. It still has nothing on Final Fantasy II, but players have found ridiculous ways to master this game. I'm going to try to consider everything out there, but I'm sure I'll have missed game-breaking strategies in the end. Don't hate me. We will be examining the 6 playable characters and 16 junctionable summons of Final Fantasy VIII. I'll be considering stats, limit breaks, and all-around usefulness of the cast, while also looking at summon skills, abilities, junctions, and I guess how powerful they are in battle, though that is pretty much an afterthought in this game. Now, without further ado, I give you the tier. The only characters that belong in the tier are the non-junctionable summons. They are a novelty, nothing more, and have barely any usefulness for the majority of the game. The low tier. First up in the low tier is Carbuncle. This summon starts out okay and moves to pretty much useless towards the middle of the game. Junctioning HP and Vitality as well as ability times 3 and counter can be useful early on, but not for very long. Next up is Pandemona. Let's be honest, Wind Element just isn't that good. This guy can't even refine Wind Magic, which is a negative. He can up your speed earlier than most other summons, but overall there isn't much reason to use him. Next is Siren. Oh, nope, not that Siren. There we go. Siren is not going to be a great summon to use in battle. But seeing as that isn't the most important part of any summon, she is a decent junctioner. The biggest reason to use her is her magic bonus ability, which permanently increases magic stat upon level up. The brothers can be very useful in early game and give you a big advantage, but that is quickly outpaced by other summons later on. Tonberry functions more as a utility summon than anything else. With his ability, you can shop from the main menu, alter the levels of your enemies, and much more. Cactuar has a great attack and 10,000 needles, though if played right, damage output should exceed this easily by late game. He also learns all of the permanent stat boost skills as well. Waiting to grind out levels for this guy is always a smart choice. Depending on playstyle, Cerberus can actually be an extremely useful summon for battle. It grants double cast, which can have some insane ramifications. It also learns auto haste and some speed boosting abilities. The final member of low tier and first party member is Selphie. Now I want to make an important distinction. This is Selphie considered without the limit break, the end. From reading the forums, this is a controversial thing to consider, so I will have Selphie ranked with and without the end. Selphie is a decent member of the party, though she brings little to it. She's probably one of the worst choices for late game party members. The mid-tier. The mid-tier is where we are really going to move into controversial ground, though the summons should be pretty straightforward. First, we have Alexander. He pretty much boosts healing and item effectiveness. His med ability is also required to obtain Doom Train, which is a much better summon. Next is Leviathan. Leviathan is a useful summon with skills like Recover, but doesn't stand out from the crowd. Final Fantasy VIII Shiva is my second favorite of the series, next to Final Fantasy XV's criminally underused summon. That being said, Shiva is one of the first summons you get and can be useful from beginning to end. She does not bring any substantial value over other summons, but she doesn't lose her usefulness as time goes on. Next, we have Quetzalcoatl. One of the first summons you obtain, Quetzalcoatl gives you the card and refine abilities, which are pivotal in setting up your endgame. Now, moving into mid-tier playable characters, we start with Quistis. Quistis' blue magic is useful for random battles. The Generator and Bad Breath go a long way. But in a game where limit breaks ultimately define you, she's in the middle of the bunch. The final member of the mid-tier is Irvine. I know I'm opening a whole can of worms here, but when considered, the damage his pulse ammo can put out is substantial, but overall shadowed by those in the top tier. The top tier. First on the top tier is the Dragon King himself, Bahamut. Bahamut can refine the best magic in the game as well as give you access to the best stat boosting skills available. Also, his attack isn't too shabby. Next on the top tier is Doom Train. Possibly the most useful attack of the bunch, Doom Train dishes out a variety of negative status effects which most enemies in the game will not have a resistance to. He can also create forbidden medicine like the Hero Trials, which is the most broken item to ever exist, making all party members invincible for the remainder of the battle. Our second to last summon on the top tier is Diablos. Because of the weird leveling of enemies, Diablos' ability to have and eliminate random encounters, as well as the hugely useful Mug ability, put him here at the top. The final summon of the top tier is Eden. I mentioned that this game is a broken mess. If it weren't for that, Eden would be God tier. She can devour enemies for permanent stat boosts, teach GF skills, and her summons can break the damage limit. But you get Eden late. She takes an insane amount of experience to level up, and because of limit breaks, there isn't a reason to fully utilize everything she brings to the table. But her usefulness cannot be denied. Now let's move on to the party members of the top tier. First up on the top tier is Squall. Squall is a tyrant. Lionheart is an insane finisher, and if done right, you can increase the chance of him performing this attack by about 25%. If this weren't random, Squall's placement on this list would be another story. The final member of the top tier is Rinoa. Rinoa is a massive damage dealer. Max out her speed, and Wishing Star can do around 200,000 damage. Angelo Assist plus Invincible Moon are a killer combination, making her one of the more versatile characters in the game. More importantly, she fires her dog from her arm, which is ridiculous. Also, there's a very complicated but broken way of exploiting Angel Wings for game-breaking damage. The God tier. Here it is, the top contenders of an already broken game. I want to reiterate how hard it is to make a list of Final Fantasy VIII. Okay, let's just put Selphie's the end here. It's random, yes, but much more doable than, let's say, Kate Sith's Limit. It can instantly kill any boss in the game, so take it or leave it, she's either in the low tier or the God tier. The final member of the God tier is Zell. Zell's Limit Break can be abused to do over 1,000,000 damage, and no, I'm not kidding. If you have fast reflexes, then spamming his Punch Rush, Heal Drop, and Booyah limits just utterly break the game completely. And that's my list. Please let me know how unsatisfied you are in the comments below.